Testing. Testing. Welcome to Fantasy Football Aces. I'm back, your boy William Wolf. My first live stream here. Getting used to it, making sure everything was working right. Haven't really done this on YouTube before, but it looks like we are live. We're going to get into some mock drafts today. We're going to get in depth. We're going to go 4 times in the next couple weeks here, getting you ready for your drafts, getting myself ready for my $2,000 salary cap draft this coming Saturday for the Diamond. It's going to be huge. Looking forward to it. I'm already prepared. I know the guys I want already. Today, I'm going to get into some secrets that I use on how I prepare for drafts and things that I've done over the last 10 years that have really prepared me and had me ready to go. I can essentially go into a draft on autopilot and know the guys that I'm already going to pick, right? It's easy for me. On my screen here, I have, and I am not getting paid by Fantasy Pros. A tool that I've used for a long time. I believe that at this point in time in 2023, they are a well-known big-time website, big Instagram following, big YouTube following, et cetera, et cetera. But 5-6 years ago, this was a hidden gem for me, a secret, a place that you can use this draft wizard here on my screen to practice mock drafts at a really fast rate, opposed to going into Yahoo mock drafts or ESPN mock drafts, where you go in there and honestly, the draft, you got to wait time. First of all, you got to wait 30-40 minutes, or you schedule it, and then you or get into the draft and some asshole, picks a kicker with the first pick, or if you're going to practice salary, bids up some schmuck who shouldn't be getting, it's just out of the order, right? So you can waste a ton of time. And if you sat at your desk and did mock drafts all day on Yahoo, you can end up doing 5 or 6 mock drafts for the whole day. And I'm not even exaggerating. I'm talking about 8 hours. And 3 of those mock drafts could have been ruined by, the computer software and or players leaving the draft and theirs is on auto draft, so they're not picking guys that they should, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, there's just lots of different variables and reasons why your draft can be ruined in these bullcrap live mock drafts with real people. Let's face it, there's kids that jump in there and they're jerks and they do bad things that or if they do things as jokes that they feel like they're going to screw your, experience. And I think that's part of the reason why a lot of people don't get into mock drafts and practice and are ready for their draft. They essentially just think they're going to go in there with their knowledge, and maybe they are really knowledgeable about NFL football in general, but you need to be prepared for these drafts. You need to be taking all the information that I'm giving you and or the Fantasy Pros are giving you, or the fantasy footballers, all these guys, all these different podcasts and channels on fantasy football that can prepare you for the draft, right? They're going to give you tiers and all these other things, but the key is to implement them in strategy, in practice, in mock drafts. One of the things that I've noticed is these guys put up these videos, and these videos essentially fix this. Perfect. These guys, they give you these videos on like, hey, this is the ideal strategy if you're at the 6th spot. This is the ideal strategy if you're at the 12th spot. And they're just giving you these strategies, right? But it's not personable when they do that, right? Like you're going to have your own vibe, your own people that you like. Maybe you want to follow my strategy, the way I like to draft. And you need to be going into mock drafts yourself and practicing and figuring out the guys in each round that you can pick. Or in salary cap, you figure out how do you want to allocate your money? Like, do I want to allocate my money to running backs? Do I want to allocate most of my money to receivers? Do I want to play a real balanced approach where I'm waiting to see like everybody else spend their money, and then I'm gonna be the guy with the big bucks who can just get a really balanced team, $20 to $30 guys all the way around. You're going to figure out your best strategy when doing that. And then in mock drafts, you get to practice that over and over and over until you figure out a guys that you essentially will want. And you're going to have a few guys that you can pivot with. You're going to have backup strategies, and you're going to be paired. So when the draft is in real time, it's like you've done it already 100 times and nothing's going to fool you. You're not going to be thrown off for a loop when something happens. There's going to be times in a mock draft where a certain guy falls to you and you're going to be like, I'm definitely taking him if he falls to me here. And then you have a backup plan if he doesn't fall to you. And that backup plan affects every other round after that, right? So I highly recommend this website, fantasypros.com. There's other software now. This one is the one that I used 5 years ago, and I'm a loyal person, so I've just stuck with them. And I think that their software is immaculate. I love their software, and I believe that there's other software like it now. But like I said, I'm just loyal. It's really cool. I'm a premium member here. You go into this draft wizard, just click that. See how my Diamond League is already integrated into the system, right? So it already knows my settings for the diamond. And then when the season starts, it's going to give you advice and stuff like that. I don't use that advice or need that advice. I genuinely only use this for mock drafts. And I think it's just brilliant for mock drafts. In this case, I want to start a mock draft. So you can do this for free in a lot of, as far as I understand, I believe. And you can set your settings exactly the way you want it, right? And when it does that, it creates the ADP based upon the settings that you provide, right? Like if you're going to do standard PPR, half point PPR, right? Today, I'm going to do a bunch of half point PPRs. We're going to do 12 teams. Shout out to my boy Ronnie B and my boy Ill Will. They're drafting at the 12 position. So I actually said I was going to do a bunch of 12 positions today and, essentially give you the way I would draft at the 12 position if I was in a fantasy football draft. Now, if you're in a league that is not giving you your draft position a couple weeks ahead of time, get out of that league. That league's Mickey Mouse, vanilla, Disneyland bullshit. Like, you need to be out of that league. Any league who's official, who's real, who's a good league, you should be having, first of all, you should be having your draft a week or two prior to the season. So the third preseason game or the fourth preseason game, you want to do that so you know the injuries get out of the way and you're not drafting too early. Things change, news happens, et cetera, et cetera. The second thing you want to make sure is that your draft has a lottery if you're in snakes, so you know your draft position a couple weeks ahead of time. That way you're able to implement this strategy and be prepared. You're able to get into mocks and know who you want. If you're just going into a league where it's randomized at draft time and draft night, that's a shit league. I mean, you're all just gambling at that point. If as much as you know about fantasy football and as much as people can be like, use the best person available strategy. That's not the way you win in fantasy football long term. You could take best available all you want, but there needs to be a strategy behind it. There needs to be a reason you're taking this guy in the second round, because in the third or fourth that position's not as available. There's all these terms for this in fantasy football. I don't care for them. Then zero running back strategy, the hero running back strategy I've heard is recently. I mean, I don't even know what the hell they even mean, to be honest with you, but that's not important. What's more important is figuring out who you want in each round based upon availability and the disparity in positions and what's happening in the rounds after, right? In simple terms, if you think that wide receiver depth or running back depth is extremely deep, then if you feel like you can get an RB1 in the fourth or fifth round, then maybe in the first or second round you allocate to wide receivers, right? Or you take a big time quarterback or Travis Kelce. It's really about preference and subjectivity, but overall, if you follow my strategy in general and the way I've been trying to describe how you avoid teams and how you want to draft from certain teams, you can easily build a roster of names of 30 to 40 to 50 guys, and then you can figure out in each round in snake or in salary cap how you want to allocate those picks based upon where they fall and the disparity in positions in scoring. And you can get really in depth in that, and that's what I like to do. In this situation, we're going to do one quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, 1 tight end. And we're going to do a flex, a wide receiver, running back, tight end. I think most leagues, I find that they do 2 receivers here, which I don't like, because at that point you're taking a starter away. And I think when you do that, you're creating a league that has more parity. So in other words, it's easier to complete a team when you only have 2 running backs, 2 receivers, and a flex. I believe that once you add that position, or if you did 2 of these, for example, I think that's the best kind of league, because that's the kind of league that you're adding that extra starter, so it's harder to complete a team. It's really hard to complete a team like this. You're usually going to have to say, hey, I'm going to be a little weaker at the receiver position. I'm going to be a little weaker at the flex. I don't care about tight end. I'm going to take a dart throw at a tight end. If you understand what I'm saying here. It's really up to preference here. I'm not going to give away exactly what I'm going to do Saturday, because there's a chance my league mates can see this. But I will get into all the things that I've already spoken about and all the videos that I've posted. And I'm going to go specifically into the 12 spot today on how you can draft and your thought process behind the draft. And that's exactly what I'm doing right now, is giving you the deep thought process. So you start your draft once you got your settings going, right? So it's going to automatically do the picks. So I actually haven't done, I genuinely haven't done snake in a long time, because I do salary cap. So this interface just looks completely wild to me. As you can see, we're the 12th spot, right? They went Justin Jefferson, Christian McCaffrey, Robinson, Barkley, Eckler, so on and so forth here, right? So we're at the 12th spot. It's going to give you your recommendations. That's cute and everything, but I don't even bother looking at that. You want to start to think about your strategy, right? So for me, I'm thinking to myself, you should have your own rankings too. Obviously, these rankings are awesome. They're cool to go by, but your rankings are more important than their rankings. And if you're not that knowledgeable about football itself, because I'm going into deep, in-depth strategy, assuming that you know about football. Now, if you are going, you're just a Joe, you're a mediocre guy. First of all, you're probably not taking this that seriously, anyways. But let's say you are. Their rankings are just fine. They're gonna give you the gist of things. But for example, me, I have on a half-point PPR, which is what we selected. I have Nick Chubb and Tony Pollard as my 1-2 ranked guys. I have Christian a little bit down lower. I don't prioritize receivers that much, especially the Minnesota Vikings. I am going to be in the minority here, but I believe that that the Vikings are going to regress tremendously this year. I think that their roster is really turning over. They made a good pick in Jordan Addison, but I think you like that. Kirk Cousins is not that man. I'm staying away from the Vikings. I think they're a middle of the road offensive line, so I believe that you can pick and choose from guys like that. I think Madison has an opportunity to be a 3-down back if you can get him of value. I'm not saying totally to stay away from the Vikings, but I just think that this number 1 pick in half-point PPR especially is just absurd. And 1-point PPR, I can see it. As far as receivers are concerned, I'm against them personally. So let's look at the receivers board. You could show drafted, which is pretty cool too. You could do that and see who got drafted. They do it by tiers, which is awesome as well. I think that this platform, like I said, Fantasy Pros isn't giving me anything for this. I just show them a lot of love. I think that I've been using them for a long time. I think they're grade A. You can't get any better than this. They were a secret of mine 5 years ago, and like I said, they're not a secret anymore. But I love that they've had this software for a long time. Receivers though, to me, besides this guy, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, and Cooper Kupp, I wouldn't put Jamar Chase in that category. These 3 guys, I could say, are probably as reliable as a 3-down horse running back in fantasy football. What is a 3-down horse running back? Austin Eckler is a 3-down horse. Nick Chubb is a 3-down horse. Saquon, Tony, Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs, Ramondre Stevenson, even Najee Harris, even though Warren is taking some of his snaps. Joe Mixon falls in this category right now. Travis Etienne falls in this category. Gibbs, we'll see. I don't know how much Montgomery's going to get the ball. Kenneth Walker, he's probably a 3-down horse. Before the injury, Breece Hall was 50-50. He wasn't really a 3-down horse. But you get my point here. Christian McCaffrey used to be a 3-down horse with the Carolina Panthers. Now Elijah Mitchell is going to take a lot of his carries. But these are the guys, these 3-down backs that I would prioritize over a receiver by far. Like, the disparity is extreme once you go from these 3-down backs to guys that are splitting. Once you get down here, look, Aaron Jones, for example, he's great, right? But you got to worry about Dylan all the time. J.K. Dobbins always got to worry about all those different backs in Baltimore with Gus Edwards. Damian Pierce, he's actually a 3-down horse. He's lower just because Houston's offensive line sucks, and they're not going to stay on the field in 3rd down. Rachaad White, he actually might be a 3rd down guy. Running back depth is there this year. Javonte Williams, these guys are all going to be sharing, right? There's only a few guys that you can guarantee are 3-down horse, 80% snap share guys. And I mean, those guys, Austin doesn't even fall in that category technically, but he's about as safe as a bet you can find. But Nick Chubb falls in that category for sure this year without Kareem Hunt. You got Saquon Barkley for sure, Tony Pollard for sure. Derrick Henry's always a 3-down horseback. Jonathan Taylor, if he stays on the team, doesn't cause distractions, doesn't, we stays healthy, he's a 3-down back. Josh Jacobs proved he was last year. Ramondre Stevenson, I'm not worried about Zeke Elliott. I think this is a 3-down horseback. You're looking at probably 75-80% snap share. Joe Mixon this year with P. Ryan gone is probably a 3-down horse. I don't see the depth in Jacksonville. You see what I'm saying here. So, but in wide receivers, they're going to have those dud games. And I'm not saying that these running backs won't have dud games too, but that most likely they're going to get 20 touches. And touches are valuable, especially when you're drafting guys on good offenses with good offensive lines, because those touches are unparalleled compared in fantasy football. Wide receivers, there's different variables that rely on them getting the ball, and one of them's the quarterback targeting them, and then the second is their offensive line actually blocking, right? There's going to be times that they might be running naked on a post route, but the offensive line misses a block and the quarterback gets sacked. You have no idea how many times that happens in the NFL because the angle that they show, you don't realize it. But on tape, when these teams go into the week after their game and they're looking at tape, they're seeing, oh my God, I missed these guys. I missed about 3 touchdowns because we couldn't block. And that's why offensive lines are so valuable in fantasy football and people don't even realize it. But to the point though, is wide receivers, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, those are about as reliable as you can get, simply because Cooper Kupp gets targeted the most that's ever been in the history of football, I think. I mean, Stafford just stares at him. Tyreek Hill, he's amazing. Waddle out there, but he's pretty reliable. I still would draft a running back over him. And Justin Jefferson, last year he had the big 1,800 yard a year, but I wouldn't count on that again. I just believe that he's going to regress a bit. The point is, if it's not a full point PPR, which is your strategy changes, I think you should be prioritizing running backs. That's my philosophy. I think in the long term, you are going to win if you prioritize 3 down horsebacks in the first couple rounds, and then you try to find value receivers that are undervalued in the later rounds. You pick a round for a quarterback and a tight end that you want a specific guy available, and then you build your other team around him. So in this case, we would definitely draft Tony Pollard. That's a no-brainer for me. And at this point in the draft, like, it's trial and error, because you're going to end up finding out like who is available to you when it comes back. Because at the 12th pick, you're going to have to wait, 24 picks until it gets back to you. At that point, people aren't available, and then you might need to re-strategize. Hey, actually, I don't want to take Derrick Henry here, because that's who I would take. So I took Derrick Henry and Pollard. That's two 3 down horsebacks. So you live and learn here though now. So now you're starting to see, and you got to do 25 of these things, and we're going to start railing them off real fast to try to figure out our best strategy. But in this case, we see, let's hide these draft now. You got tier 3 and 4 receivers, but you can kind of see guys that you might like and not like, right? We're in a flex league. What quarterbacks? You could see that by the time it got back to you in the 3rd round, these 3 quarterbacks are gone. So you want to look at all and try to figure out, who is going. The first 2 picks are easy, but after that, you need to start to see who's going to be coming back to you, right? So you see Justin Fields. I like him this year. I like Lamar Jackson this year as well. They look like, they're probably going to get taken here. So you need to figure out what you want to give up. Because if you give up taking a quarterback in this round, which I think you have to, so in this case, we still have a 3 down horse back here in Kenneth Walker III. I think you can't miss out on him. You draft him. Now you got 2 running backs and a flex. You can see your rosters here: Tony Pollard, Derrick Henry, Kenneth Walker. So now you're trying to fill your team up, right? So in this situation, guys, there's tons of people here that you can take. This is why I'm telling you that it's so important to strategize. I don't think Lamar Jackson or Justin Fields are going to be there by the time it gets back. 53, 34, 44, 54. You can gamble that Justin Fields is going to be there. And that's what I think we can do. So in this case, you want to take a receiver. I love Deebo Samuel. I think it's a good spot for him. I love Keenan Allen. He's on a Chargers team who's on my list, top 10 offensive lines in the NFL. And then you have Lamar Jackson. Calvin Ridley, who's a popular pick, but he's a number 2 receiver on that team. I would never take that guy. Amari Cooper's a great great person to try to draft right here because he's on a bounce back team, in my opinion, with the second best offensive line in the NFL. Deshaun Watson in his second year. I think he could be a great player, but I just think Debo, he's off the charts. And I think the things that he could possibly do are amazing. I would draft Debo here. So now it's going to go through the picks again here. We gambled that they don't take Justin Fields and they took him. But now you're learning here, like, okay, I'm not going to get Justin Fields. So if I employ this strategy, then I'm going to be screwed. So at this point, I like this team, but we're going to restart the draft. And you could do this a million times, guys. Now, in this draft, it was pretty chalk again. I still am going to take Tony Pollard. Still going to take Derrick Henry. Comes around. And you learn here something here. Now, I think this is a new feature. I think this is whether or not they're going to get drafted on the back end. Getting back to you. I'm pretty sure that's a new feature, or either that or it's who gets picked in this round. But I have it's bizarre, so this is the kind of thing that's pretty cool is you get the chance to see something. I have Justin Fields ranked above Lamar Jackson. So I would take Justin Fields right here, and a lot of people would think that's early. But you got Justin Fields, Tony Pollard, and Derrick Henry now. And then I didn't really get a chance to see what kind of players were available on the back, but the fact that you have Kenneth Walker, a 3-down horse, and then you have, I think that you probably go with him because his talent was off the charts last year, and you're going to have 3 horse running backs on your team, which is hard to match up with. But at this point though, you live and learn as well too, because you get to see like how your team's going to be formulated if you would go to a receiver here. Because I wouldn't mind taking Debo here. I wouldn't mind taking Amari Cooper here or Keenan Allen for that matter. I like all of those guys in that spot. Yeah, I would go here with my gut. I have him a top 10 rank back this year in all fantasy football. I think that you getting a 3-down horse, 3 of them in the same team, Tony Pollard, Derrick Henry, and Kenneth Walker third with Justin Fields. I mean, you're going to make the playoffs right here with that team. That's the kind of shit that like I'm trying to teach you right now. Because when these teams finish, you look at them on paper and you're going to see, this guy's kind of weak in this spot, right? I'm going to be a little weak here. I'm not going to lie. But I'm not going to be weak. These 4 guys are going to lead me to the playoffs. All 3 of these guys are going to get 20 plus touches this year. For 100%. And that's a guaranteed playoff. This is guaranteed playoffs. These 4 guys stay healthy, you're in the playoffs. And that's all I want to do with fantasy football aces is teach you how to make the playoffs. Because once you make the playoffs, it's rolling the dice. That's what it is. It's like March Madness in college football. It's one and done. You could be a big favorite with pocket aces and get sucked out on. And that can happen in fantasy football. But if you're making the playoffs consistently every year and specifically getting a bye, so you're in the semifinals every year, you have a really good chance to make the money because you get to the championship, you split it up, chop that baby up, and then that's a win no matter what. I don't play for the belts in fantasy football. I play for the money. Now, however you want to look at it, go for it. So we get to the wide receiver position. We know we're weak there. We need a tight end. We need receivers. I think where we at? We want to look to see who's going to be. Kyle Pitts will be gone by then. I would love to have him this year. George Kittle, Darren Waller. I like both of those guys. I like Pitts. I even like Goddard, Dallas. These 3 guys would be a must draft for me. Um, looks like there's a lot of running backs on the list that I like here still too, so that can change your strategy. That's the thing about Snake. And in salary cap, you pick exactly who you want and build your team that way, right? In Snake, you're gonna have to do a lot of trial and error, and that's what I'm trying to teach you right now. I'm trying to teach you how to build the best team, based upon trial and error. So here we're seeing what we have available to us, and I think that this right here is a spot that you got to take a tight end. So on your list, it depends on who you liked best. I took Kyle Pitts over all these guys last year. I thought he was tremendous. I think that he could bounce back this year. The offensive line is fire. Bijan Robinson's out there. I actually think that he's the pick right here. This is coming from a guy that got burned by Kyle Pitts last year. Absolutely burned. But I think that he's the pick right here. So now you got I don't mind you taking George Kittle or Waller there. I think that they're solid picks as well. And then you get here. This is tough. At this point in the draft, you know you're going to take receivers here on out. So it's a matter of preference. Based off my philosophy, I like to draft off teams with the best receivers. I think that Herbert is going to be back healthy this coming year. I think that Mike Williams is your pick here, simply based on the fact that he's on a good offense, the good offensive line. He's got Keenan Allen on the other side. I know Mike Williams is always a boomer bust kind of guy, but that's the kind of guy you win with this because you're going to get consistency out of Derrick Henry, Pollard, Fields, and Walker. So Pitts is kind of like a dart throw kind of guy, and so would Mike Williams be. Now it's going to go around. And I saw something there, by the way, and I thought there's a different strategy I can deploy to build a better team here next time. So that's what we might end up doing. I wish my chat would stay up, but that's okay. I don't really think anybody's chatting with me regardless. So now we know we still need receivers. You should have a list, depending on how you want to run your strategy, of a bunch of receivers that you think you can get late that could win you your league. I actually love this team right here. This is a fantastic team. Love this team because there's so many receivers I think in half-point PPR that can outperform their value, and you can win the league when you got Walker, Derrick Henry, Pollard, Justin Fields. You want the guys that are boom or bust. You don't care at this point. You got consistently. You got a heart of your team. You want guys that can have big high ceilings. Who cares if their floors are low? You want guys that are going to be Gabe Davis, catching 75-yard touchdowns. He wins you a league when he catches that 75-yard touchdown. These are the kind of guys you want. You want high ceiling guys. He's on an offense with Josh Allen where he could catch a bomb at any moment. I would take it's bizarre. I know it is for a lot of you people out there analyzing this, but I love Gabe Davis right here. And I think that you cannot pass up on Kadarius Toney here. I think that Kadarius Toney here is a must draft because you got a guy who is going to be on one of the best offenses in the NFL in Gabe Davis. And then you have another guy with the best quarterback in the NFL. He's the number one receiver besides Travis Kelce. I take Kadarius Toney there, as bizarre as that sounds. And you have to have a backup plan because obviously Kadarius Toney can get hurt, but you have a backup plan just in case. And that backup plan could be, see who got taken here. The best feeling you can have is when you make a pick like that and then you you don't see anybody on the list that you actually would have wanted anyways. In this case, I saw one guy on that list, Sky Moore. I would have liked to back him up with Kadarius Toney to have that guy, in case Kadarius is hurt, he just slides in. I think Rashad Bateman is a must draft guy here in this spot. The Ravens have a top 5 offensive line in the NFL. Lamar's got a contract under his belt now. He has no excuses. He's going to be trying to ball out now, win a Super Bowl. I'm not a Lamar supporter, but with that offensive line and coaching and that team, I believe that, Bateman, you saw him catch that 75-yard touchdown slant last year before he got injured. This is a guy that's a high ceiling guy, man. And now you got Mike Williams, Gabe Davis, Kadarius Toney, Rashard Bateman. I actually love this team I'm building here. I really do. Now you want to go for another guy like that I'm speaking about here. I think that at this point in the draft, you got to think that you want to really pay attention to this, because you're going to notice guys down on the list that will make it back to you. And this is important when you're drafting at the 12 spot, because at the 12 spot, you're going to have to start looking ahead to see which guys are going to make it back to you. But when you're this late in the draft, the thing that happens is there's a better opportunity for even a guy right here to make it to you, simply because the needs of other teams, right? This is when it's important to start looking at the other teams. So you can start, looking at the teams that are next year. I think this view's best. But you should be doing this while the draft is going, right? Because in real time, you'd be on the clock right now. I'm not on the clock, but if you were on the clock, this would be important to know. So you know that this team needs a quarterback. At the 12th spot, I really don't think it's as important to know the people around you. Because at this point, actually, it might have been more important in the 4th or 5th round. But around here, it's anybody could take anybody at this point. They pretty much covered all bases. So at that, it's going to be a matter of preference. And I would say for us, we still want to fill receivers. Our running backs are stacked. We could take a peek at the running backs, see if there's any guys that we want to steal. No, we need running back value right now. We can't afford to take any of these. We need receiver value. I'm sorry. We can't afford to take any running backs here. This would be a strategy to take guys like this if you were loaded at other positions and then you were like, hey, I want to take Elijah Mitchell because just in case Christian gets hurt or in case James gets hurt, I take Damian Harris. Jared McKinnon, he had that phenomenal back end of the fantasy football year last year, but I wouldn't count on that again. Wide receivers, you go with high ceiling. Juju's still a number 1 receiver, which is kind of bizarre. You think about it. I'm going to take a gamble that Jameson Williams comes back to me because I'm high on him. I believe, after a 6-game suspension, he can be an absolute baller for you. I also think that it'd be important to get somebody on that Lions offense because they're one of the best offenses in the NFL. We got Mike Williams off a great offense, Gabe off a great offense, Kadarius off a great offense. We got Kyle Pitts on a great offensive line with a potentially good offense this year. Kenneth Walker on a pretty loaded offense besides their offensive line. Rashard Bateman on a good offensive line. Justin Fields, who I have as an MVP candidate this year. I take Juju here because he's a number 1 receiver. I think he's a safe pick. I think that he has potential of getting, 10 targets a week. I think they'll move him all around the field in New England in the slot outside. I think Ramondre Stevenson and Zeke will take a little pressure off Mac Jones and probably give him some easy throws because teams are trying to stop the run. I don't really like anybody else here. That's why I would take. As you can see in those rounds, I didn't really like any of the running backs that were available. Tight ends were already gobbled up. I think that you have to keep all that in mind when you're drafting again, right? Because this team's cute and everything, but maybe I want to build it differently. So for me, you see the guys I got taken. Jamison Williams got taken. Remember, I was just talking about him. So now you write that down. He got taken in the 10th round. So if you're drafting at 12, you know that in this spot here, instead of taking Juju Smith-Schuster, you should have just took Jamison Williams. Because after week 6, when he comes back from suspension, his potential is way greater than Juju Smith. So you write that down. So now I know. Now I know that in the 9th round, 9th, 10, at that corner swing, I'm going to take Jamison Williams because I know he won't fall to me again. The same thing that we learned here in the first round. When I said 3rd, 4 right here, when we took Justin Fields, because we knew he wouldn't make it back to us. So we're learning things now each round. So now you start to know what you're doing. You know you're going to take these 2 running backs, which I don't know for sure anymore because I'm gonna take Derrick Henry off my list. But I want to finish this a little bit further just so you can see something. In this case, I look at these guys. You try to find maybe a good backup of value running backs. I think taking Jeff Wilson here would be smart just because he's in a really high volume offense who can score a lot of points, and I think that you'd be stupid not to possibly have their RB1. And he was pretty good last year when he came over. He kind of took Mostert's job. And I think at receiver, you want to take. I think right here, to be honest with you. Oh, there you go. I was gonna say that it's in snake draft. People don't tell you about this, but it's really smart to take defenses around early than everybody else. So now you want to see when these guys took a defense. He took him in the 10th. I think that Bateman is more valuable than and Jamison Williams are probably more valuable than grabbing that defense, but that's debatable. One thing that people don't realize is that you have to draft a defense. I mean, you have to field a defense in fantasy football every week and a kicker. And these guys get thrown to the curb as being a waste of money or a waste of a draft pick. But I've always argued against that. I think if you have a chance to get the best defense in all of fantasy, San Francisco or the Philadelphia Eagles, I think that you have a huge advantage on everybody else because you have to draft these guys every week. And if you're consistently getting 8, 9, 10, 11 points from these guys while your league mates are trying to scramble for guys every week and sometimes getting 2-point duds, dude, that's huge. That's way more huge than at this point drafting a receiver that is not even going to start for your team. None of these guys are going to start for my team. And I don't think people understand that. People think that I hear so many experts and I hear so many people think that they rather take these dark horse guys that have high potential on overtaking a defense that could be somebody that you start every single week. So I would 1000% take a defense there. I'd even consider taking him around early and grabbing San Fran or Philadelphia Eagles because the guys that I drafted over them, Juju Smith-Schuster and Bateman, they're both on my bench. They're not even going to start for me. But guess what? If I had San Fran or Eagles right here, my starting lineup starts to look a lot sexier. These top-rated defense, and I like Dallas, by the way, so I'm happy with getting Dallas there. I think that if you're going to get a defense, San Fran, Dallas, Philly ironically, are the top 3, but that's fair. I would go with them. And it doesn't always work out that way. And it's no guarantee that these 3 are going to be the best 3 defenses. I've seen so many years in the past where the Bears had the number 1 rated fantasy football defense, and then the following year they put a dud up. It happens, but I still think it's smart to invest in a defense a round or 2 earlier than everybody else. I've done it my whole fantasy football career. All my people in the diamond could tell you this, and especially when it came to snake. I was always going to reach for a defense a round or two earlier than everybody else. Again, because taking a receiver that's going to be on your bench or a flyer who you think potentially could be a gem is just a gamble. When you're taking the top rated defense, you're not gambling. This team is in your lineup every single week. Depth can be found through free agency, especially when you're in a league that you're bidding for your free agents, because then you could really bid for the guys that you want in the positions that you need. And that's why I believe also building a team that your receivers might be weaker is okay, because in free agency, you can find that receiver. Hopefully there's always 1, 2, 3, 4 guys that you can find through free agency that end up being superstars. A lot of those guys get drafted late and then they get dropped. A lot of those guys get, like Garrett Wilson, for example, was dropped early in the year last year and then ended up being a superstar. That happened with Justin Jefferson in his rookie year as well, believe it or not. He was dropped into free agency because he struggled to start off the year. It happens. So you can find a gem in free agency. That's why you don't need to be investing a pick in them. You can always take a defense around early. At this point, we're getting into sleepers, which I love to get you. I like Isaiah Hodgins. I think he's a sleeper this year. I like Rashad Rice. I think he's a sleeper this year. But I'm gonna auto draft the rest, and then I want to show you the other cool feature they got. So auto draft, it gives me a D+. Woof. Now, this is another cool thing about, I try to like create a team always that they'll give me an A or B, and believe it or not, I'm getting A's every single time in my salary cap. This is the first time I've ever done a snake. They gave me a D+. Now, the cute thing about this is I do not agree with this most of the time. As a matter of fact, the cool thing about this feature is projected standings. So they got me 12th overall, starters 11th, bench 11th, QB 6th, running backs 3rd. I don't know how they have running backs 3rd. I literally can flex. I should be 3rd and 1. So that's what I mean. I don't really agree with this. But you start to look at draft board, right? And you could look at other people's team. They do it a different way too. I don't like this. Interface looked a little different last year. But this is good enough. No, I like when they put it, they give you the, here we go. That's the way I like it. You could analyze other people's team, right? So you see, okay, who had the best draft? They said Waddleberger. You go to Waddleberger's team and you can analyze it. Josh Allen versus Justin Fields, J.K. Dobbins, Tony Pollard, James. See, I already don't agree with the software. That's what I'm trying to say. They gave this guy the best draft. I like my team much better than his. I got way better running backs. I like Justin Fields on the same level as Josh Allen this year. It's going to be close. It'll be a coin flip between those two. The disparity is not going to be great at all. Receivers, he's got A.J. Brown, Calvin Ridley, Jordan Addison. I got Gabe Davis, Mike Williams, and I'm starting Kadarius Toney, and I'm high on Kadarius Toney. So the software doesn't agree with me here. And then he's got Travis Kelce versus that's where his team gets strong. I see where they like that. It's a good pairing. Alvin Kamara could be potentially a good flex, but I'm not buying on him. They picked up a great defense, so that's the reason why they like them there. Bench is very mediocre. I think my bench is better, actually. I like Jeff Wilson. Kicker's strong. Defense is pretty close. Let's see who else they liked. They like Shark Week. Take a look at Shark Week. You got Jalen Hurts, obviously. So we all got great quarterbacks. Lamar Gibbs and Rashard White. I like both of those guys. But mine are better. Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, and George Pickens. He's got 3 big name receivers, specifically these 2 guys. Of course, he liked his team there. Tight ends are comparable. Flex, he's super weak. I'm crushing him at flex. I think between these two teams, it's very close, but it depends on what you're valuing. And I value Derrick Henry, Tony Pollard, and Kenneth Walker III with Justin Fields. That core, those four, those are that's my core, the four guys. Your core is always going to be your first four picks, essentially. That's you're going to be your core and snake, and in salary, that's the first four guys you allocate the most money to. That's your core of your team, and then you're going to have to let other parts of your team be a weakness. In his case, this is more of a balanced approach, but his flex is weak, which is fine. I think having a weak flex is actually really, really smart because you can pick one up in free agency in the first 4 or 5 weeks, and or a hit on one of your bench guys. And then Rashard, I mean, his receivers are good. But let's start over again. Let's draft again. 23, snake, half point PPR. Gonna be the same setup. Start your draft. Shout out to Ronnie B and Will, man. I'm doing this for you, man. At the 12 pick. We're showing what it is to have a great draft at the 12th pick. Oh, wow. See, Nick Chubb fell to me this time. Definitely taking him. I'm definitely taking Nick Chubb and Tony Pollard. They're the top two guys on my big board this time. See, this time I was going to go with a different pick in that first round. I wanted to show you something, but because of those two guys fell to me, I couldn't pass up on them. I'm going to have the best running back duo and out of everybody in fantasy this year if that happened to me at the 12th spot. Will, Ronnie, if this happens, I don't care if you're in 1 point PPR, you take these two guys. You'll win your league. Both of those guys are going to be 3-down horse dogs. At this point, we know that if we want to get one of our quarterbacks, we got to take him here, so we will. I like Justin Fields, so I would take him there. And then last time we took Kenneth Walker III. We definitely don't want to do that this time. We want to, I think, because I know that there's a lot of other guys I saw in the following round at running back, I think it'd be smart to get some tight end, some wide receiver value here. I believe that I would go with Deebo Samuel here. I don't mind with Deebo. That's who I like. That's all a matter of preference here, but I just really want to give you a gist of how you want to build a team. This is how you're building a team through practice. So now we got 2 running backs, a receiver, and a quarterback. We know that we have to take a tight end here because we saw what happens. These guys get eliminated from grabbing. It's a matter of who you like. I like Kyle Pitts here, but I'm going to take George Kittle just so the software gives me a better grade. I think that that's the reason why they gave me a D+, by the way, because I go away from their rankings. George Kittle, I know a lot of you might like George Kittle over both of these guys. I definitely wouldn't take George Kittle here because I took Deebo. So I'm not. I still think Kyle Pitts is the pick. So even though I know the software doesn't like me here, I take Kyle Pitts. So it's going to go through its little process again here. Now we still need to fill this flex position and these receivers. I noticed in the last draft that there were some running backs that I like that you can get right around here. I love DeAndre Swift. I love James Cook. So I love Drake London. But I took Kyle Pitts. So I'm not going to take Drake London. See, George Kittle fell to me this time. Something you need to pay attention to. Well, actually, I'm on my second pick. I'm stupid. Sorry. I could revert that pick. So undo. I know I need Kyle Pitts. I'm taking him. I can't pass. I gotta pass on him. And then looking to see the guys that could possibly fall to you the next time. You'd have to gamble that Swift or James Cook don't fall to me. I have a backup pan in Khalil Herbert here if he didn't. So I think going with a receiver here. I don't think you could. This is tough, guys. With Debo. I'm not taking anybody on the Bucks. I know this seems like an obvious pick to you guys, but I would go here based on what might or might not fall to me. I'm taking DeAndre Swift. Reason being is because if I don't take him, I'm not going to have anybody on the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think the Philadelphia Eagles are the best offense in the NFL, the best offensive line. So if you have Chubb, Pollard, and Swift as your flex, you're not going to get anybody else from the Eagles at this point. They've all been drafted. You take DeAndre Swift. You don't gamble that he's not going to come back to you. That's what I would do there. So Khalil Herbert actually made it back to me. I take him just simply the way I've been building my team. I take him because I think that he's could be a high RB2 this year. I think that could be a bell cow, 3 down back. I don't really see them. I could see them. I'm a big Bears fan, by the way. I could see them using Foreman on the goal line a little bit, and I know they like to spread the carries around a little bit. But Khalil, I mean, I just think he looked immaculate last year, and that's part of the reason why they let Montgomery go. Montgomery was a decent, good back too, but I just think that you have a lot of value with Khalil. Swift, he always has that injury bug. Now you got a good guy to replace people during buys. So if a receiver's if one of these running backs are on a buy, 10, 5, and 7, you got your plug-in guy. So you'll always be strong at the 2 running back and flex position. He could be trade bait at some point as well. Any of your running backs could be. You definitely need receivers now at this point, right? But I strategically left that open because I know there's tons of receivers I love that I can get late. Taking Gabe Davis, big boomer bust guy there on a big offense. So I want to show you something. I took Gabe Davis here, and I realized Kadarius Toney gets taken before he gets back to me. I don't think there's any case that Kadarius Toney makes it back to me at round 9, pick 12. I'm going to undo that last pick, and I'm going to take Toney. This is because I love him. If I take Toney instead, I let Gabe Davis walk. I think Kadarius Toney's value is way higher than Gabe Davis as far as that's concerned. Because now I got Debo Samuel, Kadarius Toney, Pollard, Nick Chubb, Justin Fields, Kyle Pitts, and DeAndre Swift with Khalil Herbert. Now this team is way better than the last draft. This is a stacked team. This team can win a championship easily. You get Sky Moore here because you want to back up the fact that you have Kadarius, and Kadarius gets hurt a lot. Now, and frankly, you could start them both. If you want to, I wouldn't mind that at all. But you have another wide receiver choice here anyways. So Sky Moore is more of a backup plan when Kadarius is hurt. But I think Sky Moore is going to be a 70% snap share guy for them this year. He's going to take Juju Smith's job and do it a much better. I think here you want to obviously take another receiver. I would go with. I got Chubb, so I don't want Elijah Moore. I would take him actually if it wasn't for that. Got to pay attention to that. You don't want to double down on different players on your team unless the quarterback receiver stack. You don't want anybody that's taking points from each other because then you're limiting your ceiling every week. You want different players on different teams. That's the best chance to have the biggest ceiling. And there's this false fallacy about stacking a quarterback and receiver that is not true either. It doesn't do anything for you except give you a possibility of having a big week at the same when the quarterback throws to that guy every time. But truthfully, it probably decreases your ceiling over a season long. Having guys stacked, I'd rather just have different guys on different teams because if you have that one player on every team that blows up, then that's how you maximize your ceiling. In this case, I would probably go with. I don't have a guaranteed third receiver at this point. So I need a guy who's I can rely on, and none of these guys are that guy. I would take it's crazy. Right here, I would take the San Francisco 49ers. I really would. As bizarre as that sounds. Because I don't really care for any of the guys that are here. I think that they're all mediocre. I think that when it gets back to me, like it did, I can find a guy in this range here that I would have been just as happy with. Look, I took San Francisco, right? So I solidified my defense. That's a starter for me. It's going to start every week except it's week 9 bye. Every week I'm starting these guys. That's huge, man. You have no idea. Like, it's so undervalued. It's ridiculous. And at receiver, what did I lose out on? Jordan Addison? No, I didn't. I lost out on guys I didn't want. I didn't want any of these guys. Odell Beckham, maybe. Zay Flowers, maybe. Those guys, you don't know what the hell they're going to do out in Baltimore. Nico, I was kind of thinking about him, but I don't want him. Now I definitely take my third receiver. I think Rondell Moore has a chance of being a guy you can count on this year. I like Isaiah Hodgins as well as a really underrated number 1 receiver for the New York Giants. Take a look at the big board just in case for any running backs that you might want instead. But yeah, I like Isaiah Hodgins right here. So funny enough is Isaiah is probably going to be my third receiver, which I love. Kadarius Toney, Deebo Samuel with Isaiah Hodgins. And then Sky Moore could possibly be that guy as well. And you got Khalil Herbert, who's an immaculate backup to anybody that gets hurt at the running back position. I don't barely lose a step there at all. I got an elite quarterback. Truthfully, I made a mistake here too. I don't take Khalil Herbert with Justin Fields. So that's something you learn. You just don't do that again. So here I could have gotten a receiver instead. And then that receiver would have been here. So it would have been a great receiver with Deebo and Kadarius, Kyle Pitts. That's a good team. You're going to get into sleepers again. Let's see what kind of grade they give me this time. C-. Again, I'm not going to go into depth about this again, but you look at the team that they think is the best. And then you look at their team and how they built it, and then you can kind of get an idea of how you get better, right? Now let's do another one. All right. Same draft. Tony got taken this time. Obviously, I'm taking Saquon Barkley. He fell to me there. Now, this is where they did something different. And you have to think to yourself, okay, they took Derrick Henry this time, who I didn't want anyways. They took Chubb this time, who I got last time. This time I got Barkley. Stephon Diggs, this is the first time he's fell to me. What would I do if that happened? Would I stick with my running back strategy? I'm a big fan of Jonathan Taylor this year, personally. I love Ramondre Stevenson. I don't think he's made it. Yeah, I guess he has made it to me a single other time. It looks like at the 12 position, there's no chance that you get any good tight end. You're gonna have to settle for that's the thing I hate about Snake, guys. This is why I don't play Snake anymore. I would advocate to anybody out there who watches this to get your league on salary. Salary is the only way you should be drafting. It takes this whole experience to another level. You have to learn how to allocate money. This is luck. Like at the 12 position, guys, I don't have a chance of getting Travis Kelce. It's just not happening. And then if I can't take any of these other guys because I can't take Mark Andrews here because I can't. And then by the time he gets back to me, he's gone. So that's the thing I hate about Snake is that there's players on the board that you have 0% chance of getting unless you reach for them so far that it makes it's not optimal and you're just screwing yourself over out of value. That's the thing I hate about Snake. But in this case, the pick is either Jonathan Taylor or Stephon Diggs. And I think Jonathan Taylor is way too far down. So in this situation, you would take Stephon Diggs. So now you got Stephon Diggs and Saquon Barkley. I haven't done anything like this yet. Normally I've had 2 running backs in the first 2 rounds. But and this is how you learn here. So this is like a situation where you learned what happened, right? I have Travis Etienne ranked pretty high this year. Looks like Mark Andrews fell to me this time. We know that I'm not going to get any of these quarterbacks unless I take them in this round. So in here, I would take Travis Etienne. I like Mark Andrews, but yeah, I mean, he hasn't felt to me in any other one. So I just would imagine that that's fluke. I don't think it's smart to take him. I think you should just stick with. I mean, of course, the play is right here is taking Mark Andrews because he's much better than these other tight ends as far as a gamble is concerned. But you got to stick with your strategy. You know that these quarterbacks aren't going to get back to you in this round. We've already seen that through experience. So if you want your guy, you're going to have to reach for him a little bit. This is where their rankings don't matter as much as your personal rankings. So for me, like I'm taking Justin Fields right here because I know he's not going to make it back to me, and I know I want him because I think he could win me a fantasy football league this year. So you got Justin, Saquon, Travis Etienne, Stephon Diggs. That's a pretty good core right there. That's your core 4. Remember, I keep talking about that. That's your core 4. Now you got to build a team around them. You kind of know what's going to happen in the draft because you've done numerous drafts now here. You know that you need to take a tight end here because that's just the way it's gone. So you don't have Debo anymore. So now you could take him. I take Pitts over Kittle, but I know a lot of you guys might take Kittle over Pitts. That's fine if you feel that way. I'm not going to debate whether you should take Kittle or Pitts. If it's me, I'm taking Pitts. I like the situation better. I think that there's less people to feed out there in Atlanta. I think Atlanta's got the best offensive line in the NFL, arguably. And I think that everybody on that offense is going to have a good year this year. I think Ritter is going to be good for that offense compared to what Mariota was. But I'll take Kittle for the sake of taking the higher ranked guy here. Maybe the software will give me a better grade. You can go flex a receiver at this point. We've learned that what guys will make it back to us and what guys won't. I don't like Cam Akers this year. He's on my no draft list. I'm not taking anybody off the Rams. Mike Williams is a good boom or bust. Javonte Williams is not a bad pick right here. That's my dog, Bree. What's up, Bree? Bree, we're drafting, sweetie. Overman right here. About to turn a year old in like a week. Bree, you want to take a draft? Drafting. Be done in a little bit, okay? Out. Wow, I promise. Yeah. Give me another 30 minutes, all right, sweetie? All right. So we need a flexor receiver. A lot of these guys are on my no draft list. Javonte doesn't happen to be one of those. Stop, Bree. Bree doesn't understand we're on a live draft right now. Bree. We're live, Bree. So live. All right, so I'm taking Javonte Williams. I think the upside is just Denver's got almost a top 10 ranked offensive line this year. They got Sean Payton in town, who I think is going to take everybody on that team to the next level. I think Russell Wilson's a little over the hill, but if with P Ryan there, that's the reason why I'm a little scared of taking Javonte. But in the situation that I got him right there, as a possible flex, I think it's an absolute steal. I think that you need to take another running back now, just in case. I would take Khalil Herbert here or CC. That's the problem. I would take James Cook. That's a no-brainer right there. If he fell to you in the 7th round, that's a no-brainer right there, James Cook. This guy could be a league winner. Now you got 2 possible flex that are studs. You got 2 running backs that are elite, 3 down back horses. Justin Fields could be the MVP this year, and you got an unbelievable wide receiver with a pretty good tight end. So you got a good team here. And now you just know that you need to draft receivers the rest of the way. I like Jordan Addison this year. I think he's a good gamble. I think I would take him right here. I would pay attention because that might have been the round I had to take Kadarius Toney though, and I want Kadarius. Stay down. I want Kadarius Toney. So let me see if he went. Yeah, he did. So we're gonna go undo that pick, and we learned that we have to take Kadarius at this turn, no matter what. So that's what I want here, regardless. I know that they have him ranked a lot lower than I do, but that's absurd. I think Kadarius is a league winner kind of receiver. With Pat Mahomes, you saw all that talent in the Super Bowl. If that guy stays healthy, he could be an wide receiver 1. Stephon Diggs and Kadarius Toney, that talent is just off the charts. You need receivers here to keep filling. I would take Jamison Williams when you get now like you're looking at after week 6, you got 3 superstar receivers possibly. But you need somebody. Luckily, you're at the turn, so you can pick another guy because you know that he's going to be out for 6 weeks. I don't really like any of these guys, so this is when I would take a defense. This is something that you need to learn. I take the Philadelphia Eagles right there. And I know that sounds crazy in round 10, but I'm telling you, he's going to start for you. And all these guys that are being passed up on, I don't like them that much. Who do you got? A bunch of backup running backs and flyer receivers that I can get when it comes back to me anyways. I could take flyer receivers right now. You got Rondell Moore. Isaiah Hodgins. I like both of those guys. So that'll be my third receiver. Remember I told you this. I said that when you when you do these drafts, when you add that extra receiver with the flex, then you're always going to have a weakness in your team. It's just math. So my weakness on my team is probably my third receiver, arguably my second and third receiver. But I love Kadarius Toney. My third receiver, right? So like I have Isaiah Hodgins or Rondell Moore. A lot of people would say that's the weak point of my team, but that's fine. Because other people have a quarterback as a weak point. That's a fucking horrible place to be at. Or if your running backs are a weak point, that's when you don't make the playoffs. I'm making the playoffs with this roster. These 3 guys plus these 4 guys, I'm making the playoffs with those 4. Stephon Diggs, Travis Etienne, Saquon, and Justin Fields, I'm making the playoffs. And all these other guys are big time flyers, right? Javonte Williams can be a fucking huge player for me. Who knows? James Cook, huge. So you're just taking big time dart throws at this point. I'm gonna auto draft this one. Gave me a C+. All right. I'm going to switch my draft position to 6. And then I'm going to do this 1 or 2 times. And then that'll be it for today. And we'll do more. We'll do other draft positions tomorrow. I want to emphasize something. You saw I can't really get better than a C+. A lot of that is because my rankings are different than them, but also you're a prisoner to your draft position in Snake, right? So you have to realize that when you're playing Snake, is that you can't build a team the way you would like. You have to build a team the way you have to. You're going to be a prisoner to your position. You're not going to be able to get in certain players. I think it's interesting going at the 6th spot because it's really hard to predict who's going to fall to you in each round. So you more or less have to just know a position that you want to go for, right? So for me, for example, I think Nick Chubb is the best option in fantasy football this year. So I would take him, right? The software is not going to like that as much though, because the software would think that I should probably take Travis Kelce there. So you get to the 2nd round. Now all those guys that I was taking, they're gone now, right? I like Ramondre Stevenson quite a bit. Bree. I would probably take Ramondre here in a half-point PPR setup. As you can tell, I'm definitely a type of guy. I'm doing half-point PPR first of all, but I'm a guy that I think that if you get these 3-down horse backs like Ramondre, you're going to win your fantasy football league more so than if I would have took a receiver here like Cooper Kupp or Tyreek Hill. Then on the back end, I could have taken Garrett Wilson, I guess. T. Higgins. I think that was the best decision right there, Ramondre. I have no regrets at all. Same thing with Nick Chubb. I think those were both the best decisions. I haven't done the 6th spot at all, so I don't know what's going to happen in the future rounds here, depending on what I do. But I think getting Jalen Hurts here probably would be your smartest option, just because he is going to rush for a lot of touchdowns and rush a lot, and he's on the best offense with the best offensive line. So you got a guy who is going to be essentially your quarterback for the number 1 offense in the NFL, most likely on the most talent. Devontae Smith around him, Swift, Penny, AJ Brown, Dallas, Gorder. They're stacked, and you got the guy distributing the ball. I mean, why would you not want him? But you do learn who you could have missed out on based on that. I know that in the 5th round, tight ends haven't been making it back. So I most likely can get one of these guys in the next round for sure. So here I would want to go with a receiver or a flex. I know that there's a lot of flex guys I like later. So receiver is probably the way to go, but you have to really love somebody here. Um, and I don't. So I would, and again, this is when you live and learn. You live and learn by the rounds of what is going to be available to you. So maybe you switch up who you take in these rounds based upon who's available in the other rounds, right? But in this case, considering I've done, I would take Kenneth Walker the third. Now I got 3 horse backs. I got 3 monster backs with a great quarterback. Now that's my core. So my core now is that's guaranteed playoffs. And the receiver at the 6th spot, I'm going to end up taking, based on my strategies, I know I need a tight end at this point. So I got to take a tight end. I don't want to get a flyer. And I got to take a receiver now here. I have no receivers. Everybody else is filled up. So I'm going essentially no receivers in this draft at half point PPR. So at this point, you want guys that are flyers, like guys that are boomer busts. I'm sorry, not flyers. Guys that are going to have big time outputs, big weeks. They're going to have dud weeks. I think Mike Evans falls in that category. I think that Christian Kirk probably would fall in that category. I think Michael Pittman is really undervalued, but I could probably get him in the next round. Based upon this, what it looks like here, I probably would go with Ayuk. You're going to get an offense. He seems like you got George Kittle already. So I probably would go. I want to lean James Cook right here, as crazy as that sounds, and that's already filled up. So what I've learned here is that I want to undo my last pick, right? Because I want to do, I like the running backs that were available there. So I want to start my draft off like this. But here, I need to be going for a wide receiver. Because if not, then I'm going to be screwed later. I think that DJ Moore could have a big year this year. Like I said, we learned that there's running backs going to be available in that next round as well that I like. So we would go with another receiver or tight end here. We'll go with Kittle. Now we can go running back here because we already took care of a lot of these other positions. So we can go running back here. I like James Cook. I like Swift, but we got hurt, so we're going to take James Cook. I like this team now. So we can go receiver here again. I think Michael Pittman is extremely undervalued this year. I would definitely take him. That was an easy one right there. He popped right in front of me. I think that Michael Pittman Jr. is extremely undervalued this year. Number 1 receiver on a team with a good offensive line with a new coach who's going to make that offense better. So I'm not a huge fan of this team, but in Snake, you're a prisoner to your position, and I think you have a team that's definitely going to be a playoff team here. I would take Khalil Herbert here simply based on the fact that you're going to get some depth at running back through the bye weeks at the flex position. And we know that right here we have to take Kadarius Toney because that's when he's available. Matter of fact, he got scooped. Or did he? Did he not? Am I not seeing him? Did he get taken? You got to take him pretty early. So that happens sometimes. I think Sky Moore is your pick there just then because you want to get somebody off that Kansas City roster. See what I'm doing here? I got James Cook on a big time offense, George Kittle on a big time offense, Sky Moore on a big time offense, Pittman on a number one receiver undervalued, DJ Moore a number one receiver on an up and coming offense. Obviously that Chicago stack is not good, but that's okay. Stevenson, an absolute dog running back. Nick Chubb, dog running back. Jalen Hurts, probably the number one quarterback in fantasy. This is how you build in a team right here. Now you're getting to a point where you know that there's not a lot of guys you want. This is when you reach for that defense. Looks like the software is onto the same strategy because they're doing the same things. They already got a guy take the defense, right? Now you go back to where you need help. You know you need help at the receiver position, so you're just going to try to take flyers the rest of the way out. Flyers. I know I like Isaiah Hodgins as a big time flyer this year for me. I think that he could be of good value. I think Jaden Reed could be some value, but you can get somebody else right now. You get the point here. I'm going to auto draft this thing out. C+. This is how you keep getting better, right? The software is going to dictate whether you get an A or a B depending on certain things. Software pretty much never likes my wide receiver depth. Flex is always iffy. Bench is usually low, but that's okay. I don't mind having a weak bench. I get those guys in free agency. But this is something that I want to emphasize before I close out for the day, is that in Snake, you're a prisoner to your draft position. And most importantly, when I say that, a lot of times, and this is a fact, you can look at the data. Championship winners across the board in Snake, a lot of times at a very high percentage come from the same part on the draft board. Meaning, what do I mean by that? So if you're drafting at the 10, 11, 12 spot, right? And that's the spot that injuries don't happen, for example. Like in the first spot, Christian McCaffrey's getting taken a lot. He gets hurt that year. Or another player gets hurt right around that spot. If you're drafting at a certain place in Snake, as I've said already 25 times, you're not going to have certain players available to you because where they fall in ADP, you're just not going to get those players. So what I mean is that in Snake, a lot of times there's a lot more luck involved in the fact that no matter if you're drafting in a certain place on the board, your team's most likely not going to be a championship winner. It's kind of dictated by where you're at on the board. It's stupid. So a lot of times, unless you're just lucky and you're reaching for people that you shouldn't, and then you just end up getting a group of guys that can win a championship, it's tough. So in Snake, if you're drafting, in the beginning of the board, a lot of times like the highest percentage of championships come from a player who came on that side of the board, like the first, second, third, fourth pick, or the 6th, 7th, or the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th pick, right? You understand what I'm trying to say here. The difference in that is that guys like Ramondre Stevenson, you can get late. Even those kind of guys, in Snake last year, I'm speaking of, they would fall on a certain side of the board unless you're reaching for them tremendously. Kind of like I was reaching for Kadarius Toney in this a lot, no matter what. And I was reaching for Justin Fields a lot. And the software doesn't like that. But that's the way you change your outcome in Snake. You're going to have to reach for guys based on your own ADP and not just any rankings ADP. I think that your best bet is following these rankings, but if you're very knowledgeable and you understand football and have your own ranking system, then you should be using your own. That way you're not so much of a prisoner to Snake. But that's going to do it for me tonight. I'm going to have a lot more of these. I'm going to have like 4 or 5 more of these before the season starts. So we're really going to dial in. I'm going to keep going on these mocks. I'm going to get into the first, second, third position of these mocks. I'm going to do the sixth position more. I'm going to do a little bit later again, the 10th, 11th, and 12th position. We're going to get a good feel. We're going to see what this software likes the most. So far, I haven't got anything past a C+, which is bizarre, but it makes sense because I'm picking guys that they don't have as high in the rankings as I do. Y'all have a good night. I'll see you on the next one. Fantasy Football Aces. Subscribe, like the channel, share it. Let's go on this journey together, man. We're going to get these fantasy football championships. I promise you, if you listen to me, I'm a winner. I've been winning my whole life. I was the best Madden player in the world. I've been winning in business my whole life. I'm a self-made millionaire. All these things are true. And when it comes to game strategy, I studied game theory, economics in college. This is what I love, man. I love game theory. I love just finding the best strategies in games. Follow me, and I swear we'll get these W's, we'll get these championships, and most importantly, we'll get this money.